So this episode is going to give you a totally different perspective on reptiles. And not just as simple starter pets, but as complex animals with very specific environmental and welfare needs. Today you're going to learn what to consider before getting a reptile, how to match the right species to the right person, and what proper husbandry looks like for corn snakes, house snakes, ball pythons, and leopard geckos. I'm your host, Dr. Kara, a veterinarian based in Hillcrest, South Africa, who believes good husbandry is good medicine. My guest today is Justin Visagie, who works closely with a wide range of reptiles and spends much of his time helping owners correct outdated or harmful online advice. If you enjoy this episode, please like, share, and follow. Now let's get started.
I would say the future of keeping reptiles is those bioactive live vivariums that have live plants in. They've got LED grow lights to grow the plants. They've got real soil. They've got a drainage layer. And it's just an awesome environment for these reptiles. Why I say bioactive is because we use little bugs, isopods and springtails that actually eat the poos and the sheds in those enclosures. So literally all I do in that enclosure every day is wipe the glass and keep it clean.
A very warm welcome, Justin, to the Paws and Pet podcast. We're going to be discussing reptiles today, just for some context for the listeners. We came across each other recently and we said we've got to do this, but you're a very busy person.
Yes, yeah. It's a small shop. We got a small shop, but there's lots to do, lots of cleaning involved. We've got to keep the shop clean. We've got to always have fresh waters. Always has to look presentable the way we want people to keep the reptiles in good health and in good environments as well. Yeah,
I mean, it's a beautiful, beautiful setup that you've got in the store, and I would recommend anyone in KZN to come and check it out. It's truly,
thank you.
It's absolutely immaculate, and like everything from a quality perspective is phenomenal. You know, even I know we were talking about its placement and it not being, say, in a busy shopping center.
Yes.
And actually how beneficial that is to the animals that you keep.
Yeah, we are, because we don't want people in there that are just going to come and make noise and make the shop dirty as well, but make a noise and just not really have that interest in there. We want what's best for the animals as well, and we want them to not be stressed out all the time and just feel safe in the environment. So we do try that as best as we can, keep a quiet and calm environment for them.
I obviously came into your store with my son. So, I mean,
yes.
I'm just imagining I also had to have a few words with him in the car and terms I know you're excited, but you need to be calm. You need to let's go and have a discussion.
Yes.
I was not going to necessarily commit on doing anything. And in fact, I think you remember I said, okay, I had said he couldn't get a leopard gecko and it was meant to be one. We now own 2 leopard geckos, which
wow.
you brought some,
Awesome.
So we're going to discuss them. But I wanted to know as much as I could about it and sort of what I was getting into, especially as parents often take the responsibility of ensuring the welfare and the well-being. Is that right? I mean, you must see this a lot.
Yes. So your kid comes in all the time, and you buy kids their toys and this and that, and they get over it after a while. So you've also got to help them keep interested by being in it with them as well, and that also helps them keep it interesting as well.
Yeah. So generally, you've either got one of two things. I can imagine people who are really interested in keeping a reptile as their pet, first time, I want to try and keep a corn snake or I want to keep a leopard gecko, so they've got an interest in it.
Yes.
Or you have enthusiasts.
Yes. So it's definitely all about doing your research before you come in. Yeah. Before you commit to getting a reptile. You can't just come in and say, I want to get a reptile today. You got to do you want a snake? Do you want a lizard? Do you want a gecko? Which one interests you more? Are you going to be afraid of the gecko? Are you going to be afraid of the snake? Which one are you going to be more comfortable with? And it is a long-term responsibility as well. Some of them live up to, it's hard to say, there's the tortoises that can live up to 180 years old, but then there's the ball pythons that come from Ghana up in West Africa that live on average of 40 years. Some have known to go over 60 years old. Wow. And ball pythons are the most commonly kept reptile, I would say, in the whole world, just because it being a python and a small python, they still grow about 1.5 meters, somewhere around there. But yeah, it's not like a python that's going to get massive. It's a python that that gets nice and chunky, that kids are going to enjoy, they can hold, they can handle. They're also not aggressive. They certainly do have their moments, just like all of us do, but they are, very docile, chilled pets. Yes.
So ultimate exotics, you got on the reptiles.
Yes.
So take me through what you have in store. Just, you don't have to give me an exhaustive list, but give me some of the top things that you've got there in terms of offerings.
Yes, awesome. Okay, so we've got your common things, but like we got different morphs. So morphs are colors and patterns that we've worked with over the years to get together, and we create rarer morphs as we go. So like with the corn snakes, you get your albinos, you get your ghosts, you get your ghost motleys, and I'm not going to confuse you with all the different names, but same with the leopard geckos. There's all different morphs. African fat-tail geckos we keep as well. Your bearded dragons, which are also one of the best first reptiles if you want for your son or daughter as a pet, or even, it doesn't matter how old you are. I love them to bits. Sometimes for like 1 or 2 hours in the shop, I'll have one up on my shoulder while I'm doing some work in the shop, and they just park there. They love it. They have a good time. And then some like to be stroked. Some like the leopard geckos. I would say they just like to be left alone. And you can hold them in your hand. They don't like to be held or squeezed. Then we've also got tarantulas. Tarantulas are just, people love tarantulas. So we do have a whole full shelf full of tarantulas.
Funny enough, I don't think I spend too much time in front of the tarantulas. I'm petrified of spiders.
Yeah, they're not for everyone,
Very
but
pretty, but from afar.
I appreciate them, what they do, what they look like. They are an animal as well, so I'd appreciate them. And then we've got like a lot of rare things as well, like gargoyle geckos, Leetianus geckos. We got Chinese water dragons. Those are awesome. They're like miniature iguanas, so those are awesome. I love those to bits. Your crested geckos, they're more boreal, so they climb up. They'll climb up on the glass on the tank, and they mainly drink off the water off the leaves and the glass in the tank as well. So that you got to give a spray pretty much almost every day as well for those geckos. But anyway, and then other things, we got like Kenyan sand boas, we got the ball pythons, the corn snakes, we got king snakes, the milk snakes. Milk snakes are also, I got a soft spot for those. They're very pretty. We got Taiwanese rat snakes, leucistic Texas rat snakes, Ridley's rat snakes, blood pythons, chameleons, veil chameleons. They come from Yemen, as we're not allowed to keep our own indigenous species. We got some tortoises there as well. They're not allowed anywhere outside of KZN though. Anywhere else you do require permits for, if you can even get them in your provinces. We try not to deal with anything that we need permits or anything like that for in KZN itself. But obviously Cape Town has different regulations, Joburg as well, different regulations. I would say Cape Town's the most strict with those regulations. Pretty much everything needs a permit there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So take me through the approach, because I know we're going to dive down into some of these, and I'm very excited to actually really unpack them. But how do you go about when someone comes in and they're going like, just generally looking, just trying to inquire, are there things that you're like, I would avoid? They're high maintenance, they're high risk. Like you say, they're very sensitive. What kind of conversations are you having with people coming in order to advise them of the best suit for them?
Yeah, so we just advise the best setup that they need. I'm not there to push sales and make the most money. We are all there to give the best advice on what the reptile needs with lighting, heating, the environment, humidity, temperature, whether they need a heat pad or a heat lamp. That's a very important one. With reptiles, humidity and temperature are very important. If you get them wrong, that's where things go wrong. If you get the temperature and humidity right, they are all good to go. Also, another thing is, like, I find a lot of people that end up selling their reptiles. I see pictures of the enclosure that they're in, and it does look very boring. There's nothing in there. They've probably got it on just cheap shavings or newspaper, a plastic card that doesn't even look nice. So yeah, I do advise to try to do it up quite nice, make the environment look good. Although the snake's not really going to worry about a plastic plant in its cage, it's more for your eye as well to enjoy it more. The more you enjoy it, the more time and effort and more investment you'll put into that animal that you keep.
That is so true. And I mean, I think, we're realizing the more we discuss these animals, how important things like enrichment are. And I know that's different for different species. So let's talk a little bit more about the enclosures, because, one of the things you were saying, obviously, even in terms of touching the glass, they're very sensitive. So
yes, they are.
The setup is just the husbandry conditions of these animals really impacts both, like you say, your enjoyment and your interaction with them, but also how they do, because they don't show stress like cats and dogs.
No, they don't.
So talk about some of the issues associated with poor husbandry.
Yeah. So yeah, poor husbandry is just it's like talking about people coming in and making a noise, tapping on the glass. They're very sensitive to vibrations. They mainly feel vibrations. So like if someone's having a big party, it's not really the sound, the loud sound, it's more the bass that affects them, because it's more the vibrations that stress them out and disturb them. So yeah, it's also, when you are handling a reptile, it's best to be as calm as you can. If you are like busy and you're jumping around, screaming and shouting, it's going to probably stress them out as well. And the way you see a reptile stress out, they're either going to either jump out your hand, leap out your hand, or they're going to go a little bit crazy. If you want to know if they are stressed long term, it's that you mainly see that through their eating habits. If they are not eating for weeks on end, most of the time that is a concern of stress or poor husbandry as well. They can be internally infected, or they can be infected from the outside, usually due to poor husbandry of not cleaning the enclosures, changing the substrates out, giving it fresh water a couple times a week. And then again, also the heat. So some reptiles, as I was saying, need a heat pad, some need lights. You got to make sure that they're on the correct temperatures. Some reptiles, like the ball pythons from Ghana and West Africa, they need 32 degrees on the hotspot. So our hotspot we call, the hotspot is where they sit in the one side of the cage in the corner, usually where we put their main hide. That's the hotspot. So they go there when they need the heat. They need the heat to digest and to get that energy to move around and get going. But mainly, to digest their food. Without that, they'll regurgitate their food. They can't digest it. Also after eating, after the snakes or even geckos or lizards have eaten, it's best not to hold them. Lizards, geckos, you can hold them maybe like a couple hours after they've been fed. Snakes, they're more sensitive. They got a lot more to break down. So you're looking at about minimum of a day until you can handle them after you fed them. So that's very important. If you don't do that and you do handle the snake even a couple hours after you fed them with a full stomach, they can regurgitate their food, and then that requires you to not feed it for a certain time to build up the natural acids in their stomach for them to be able to digest their food again.
So you don't want to feed them immediately afterwards. That would be really bad advice.
Even on their next scheduled feed, it's not advised to feed them on the next scheduled feed. Usually it's about 10 days after. If they do regurgitate, I find 10 days after is a good balanced time frame. But yeah, other than that, I wouldn't feed them. Otherwise, they're just going to keep regurgitating, and then eventually worse problems come about.
Yeah.
You look at me, I look at you, I see the love in your eyes.
Health you can see, love you can feel. Ultrapet, the science of love.
So let's use the example of the leopard gecko, because obviously I've become not a pro. I've become a lot more familiar with their needs thanks to you.
Awesome.
Show us firstly what they look like, if you don't mind disturbing this little one. And then let's talk as you do and as you show us. I hope that the listeners are also watching on YouTube. Oh my word, it's beautiful. So let's go through firstly in terms of male, female, because that was one thing with my son deciding he wanted to. Your advice was in terms of not keeping the same sex together.
Yes.
So take us through decision making. Are they better on their own? Can you keep two together? And if so, male, female,
All right.
and sexing.
If you're looking at just getting one, let's start off. If you're just looking at getting one, there's not much of a difference when it comes to behavior. I would say with the females, the only thing is mainly they can lay infertile eggs. It's just their natural thing. That's what they do. It's nature. You can't help what nature does. So yeah, that's pretty much the only thing when it comes to difference between male and female, I find. If you're going to get two, you can keep male and female together, although it is best to get them when they're younger, grow them up together, and then they'll be a lot more settled. Putting them in, getting an adult and then getting another adult of the opposite sex, putting them in, there's a 50-50 chance that the male might be a little bit too hard on the female. So yeah, that's just something you've got to experience, put them together, see if they work together. If they don't, then you're going to have to separate them.
Yeah.
But you can keep multiple females in one enclosure, no problem at all. If you do have a male and female together, it's also advised to have a big enough cage of about 1 meter by 500 by 500, just for good enough space so they can have their own space. You have a hard in each corner, so that one can go to their moist hard, and that one can stay in the heat pad and in the cool side without the heat pad. Yeah, so that's pretty much it.
Is this a male or female?
This one is a female. I don't breed her. This is my personal one at home. We just breed so many of them at work, so I'm not going to overdo the breeding with the leopard geckos.
She's beautiful.
So yeah, I couldn't get rid of her. She's just so chilled. I love the color on her.
She's lovely.
This morph, if you want to know, this morph is a bit of a handful. It's a white yellow enigma eclipse. Huh. Yeah. So yeah, I did actually breed her once, but then I just got 2 eggs out, and I was like, that's it, that's enough.
Do they get egg bound? Do they have any issues with eggs and retention?
Not common at all. All reptiles can have egg bound problems, but it's really not common at all that they do. Another thing with the leopard geckos is they are nocturnal. So right now this light is shining down on her, so we're not going to keep her out for too much longer. So being nocturnal, she just probably looking for a spot right now to go in hard in the dark, because of the lights is quite bright for her.
And she's very chilled. I mean, that is one thing. I mean, she's obviously used to being handled.
Yes.
They're not always like this when you first get them. They can be, particularly when they're smaller and they're a little bit more energetic.
As babies, they can be skitterish, and they will hop, skip, and jump and give you a little bit of a hiss here and there. But yeah, just with some handling, daily handling, they are very chilled. Another thing I advise people when they do buy these leopard geckos from us, actually pretty much every reptile, is to not try not as much as possible, try not handle it for the first week that you have it, just so it can settle in its new environment, so it's not stressed out. You can, if you really have to. I know people are excited. You get this animal and you're very excited. Your kids are excited. You for maybe 5-10 minutes a day, you can handle it in that week. But I would still suggest just try and minimize that as much as you can.
So in terms of handling, just while you've got it out, because I know that she's going to want to go back in,
Yes.
What is the best and what are the big no-nos? Because you discussed, obviously, they can lose their tails, can't they? I mean, that must be quite a traumatic thing to experience as a new owner.
Definitely.
Tell us how to avoid that happening.
So the best thing with the tail is, so there are more other gecko species like the crested gecko where they can literally hear a lightning bang and they'll lose their tail. Wow. It's said that in the wild, it's actually rare to find a crested gecko with a tail, because they use that tail to drop when predators are after them, so they can run away and not get eaten. But yeah, with the leopard geckos, they do have a lot more of a hardier tail. I still wouldn't suggest gripping it. I try not touch it at all. Like as it's going over me, I do that. If you want to give it a stroke, that's fine as well. But it's actually gripping it that can do some damage. If not immediately, something will eventually happen and she'll drop her tail. The tails on leopard geckos do grow back, just a little bit shorter and stubbier. So you can see she's got her first tail here still. It's not going anywhere.
She's so pretty.
So yeah, just to avoid any problems with the tail dropping, just handle her or your leopard gecko when you get one, just like I have it here. Open hands, try not to go over them, grab them. They don't like that. They kind of just like to free roam. Like I always tell people in my shop about this girl when they're getting their leopard gecko. Sometimes I'll take her out, I'll put her on my bed, I'll go to the toilet, I'll go make a cup of coffee, come back, she's made herself at home in between my pillows. She's there, she's not going anywhere. Although I would still not maybe recommend just leaving it lying around, especially if you have cats or dogs.
Yeah.
Or if you don't have time to look for her if she's ventured too far. But yeah, other than that, they are very awesome geckos. Like it's one of a kind. You don't see geckos like this. They're exotic geckos. They come from India, so they do come from a far away. The ones that we breed are many generations captive bred. So yeah, they don't know any better than where they are. We give them the best husbandry and care, food, heat, water, and moisture, everything that they need in their enclosures.
So let's talk. I don't mind if you want to give her a break, because I want to talk about, there are some differences having kept a corn snake, and I know that we're going to be talking about corn snakes very excitedly, but even their bedding and the substrate that you keep them on is different to a snake.
Yes.
And I was quite surprised, because I thought, and this is why I'm super grateful that I came and had the discussion, because that self-setup at home, you think you're doing the right thing and you're very intentional. You're like, I've done reptiles before, I know what I'm doing. Getting that kind of thing wrong is,
it can be bad in the end. So with leopard geckos, with their cage setup, the basics are a moist hard. So moist hard, you can even use a plastic tub, but like I say, it's better to use something nice, something that looks natural. So yeah, we've got these we call them 3-in-1 moist hards for the geckos. And we use peat moss, which is like a fine cocoa fiber that it's almost like sandy, and then we use that in there, and then we spray that. We just keep it moist. So once or twice a week, we just spray that with some tap water, and with the heat pad, that moist hard will sit on the heat pad in that corner of the cage. With the heat from the heat pad and the moist water in the peat moss in the hard, it'll create that moisture and humidity that they need when they shed their skin. if they are too dry, they'll get stuck sheds around their eyes, around their mouth, and especially on their fingertips. Usually, if you leave it for too long and you don't give it the help it needs, they do end up losing their whole fingers if it becomes too bad. Yeah, another thing with, like you were saying, with the substrate is we don't advise using any loose substrates. We don't advise using any reptile sands, especially not sand from your garden. It's just because they can eat that sand or loose substrate and they can get compacted and they can suffer and pass from that. So we always suggest using paper towel, newspaper, or astroturf grass works best for us. You can use other things like rubber mats and all of that, but the problem with those is they get very dirty. There's no way for the poos and the dust and the wee and all of that to go. So like I say, you can use it, but you've got to be constantly cleaning out probably almost every day. So yeah, we always advise newspaper, paper towel, or astroturf grass.
The astroturf works perfectly because you can like wash that down quite easily. And like you say, you know, that in terms of the peat inside the thing, that's your only real bits that you would have to deal with. So and it looks aesthetically really nice.
Yeah, it is the best, most natural looking. It's nice and clean, makes it look nice and neat inside the enclosure as well. Another thing that they need is obviously a food bowl, water bowl. In their food bowl, they need calcium powder with vitamin D3 because they are nocturnal, so they are always in darkness. They do need that also kept indoors in an enclosure. They need their vitamin D3 calcium intake just to keep their bones, skin, and overall health in good condition.
So what are we feeding these guys?
So these guys, honestly, they'll eat anything that moves. They eat mealworms. People do feed them superworms. I don't advise superworms just because they have a bigger exoskeleton that sometimes they can also cause compaction and they can't pass that. So we stick with mealworms. All of ours, from baby to adults, we feed ours on mealworms. It's just that our calcium powder is in-house made. So it's made to go with especially with the mealworms, it's a good combination. But yeah, you can feed them, treat them with crickets. Although I would, like I say, just treat them with crickets. I wouldn't go overboard with the crickets because otherwise they won't want anything else. They won't want the worms.
It's like feeding sweets, isn't it?
Yes,
And
exactly.
I must say, like just from personal experience, I've seen the impact of putting the calcium powder on the crickets. They clean that powder off very quickly.
They do.
So it's actually easier to get the calcium intake through the mealworms.
It is.
They don't obviously have the ability to clean that off.
Yeah.
So.
But they'll also eat pretty much any bug that moves. They'll also eat roaches. We got the dubia roaches and the Turk roaches in the shop as well. So yeah, that's pretty much their diet that we give them.
Yeah. So let's talk parasites and the kind of things that can go wrong. Obviously, you mentioned the heat pad and the ability for them to be able to move away from that.
Yes.
How often are you seeing these kept in the wrong kind of conditions with a lamp and, you know, or not being able to move away and ending up with things like burns or dehydration? You know, talk about those kind of things.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I pretty much find almost everyone. I am very proud that people do their research before they come in, of how it's kept and what they need. But the only thing is they do a lot of research and watch a lot of YouTube videos and Google a lot of things from people that are overseas, different temperatures, climates, humidity. So overseas where it does get a lot cooler, especially in the winter months, it is advisable over that side to use certain heat lamps and ceramic heat emitters. For reptiles here that we only keep on heat pads. Over here, we just keep them on heat pads. When people come in and they talk about a heat lamp or any kind of lighting, I say it's not recommended. I do say if they do want a light, I would just say LED lights just for display purposes. But then I do remind them that it is a gecko that's nocturnal. So as soon as there's more light, it does make them hard a lot more.
Does she have a name?
Honestly, I don't name my reptiles. I think I did name my Chinese water dragon Aurora. So yeah, I love my Chinese water dragon. But yeah, I don't name them. I appreciate them. Like I say, this is my pet. I don't breed her. She's just there.
Lovely. I love the colouring on her.
Yeah, she loves her food.
Oh, you can see she's quite. And so let's talk about how to assess them from a body condition score, because that's often, it's difficult when you don't have a comparison. I obviously have, with my son having two, you can go,
of what looks healthy.
Yeah. So what are you looking for in terms of saying, they're too thin or they're
Yes.
not getting too much?
Okay, so the number one thing with the geckos, the leopard geckos, is their tail. So you can see her tail is quite chunky. Some of them get even a little bit thicker than this, like about another 50% thicker than that.
Wow.
So what the leopard geckos do is all their food, they store their fat in their tail. So in the winter months, in the months where they can't find food, obviously I'm talking about in the wild, they use that fat storage in their tail to keep themselves going until they can find food again. But yeah, obviously, we keep them in captivity, so we've always make sure we've got food there for them. Top up every day with food. Always make sure they've got food there so they can eat whenever they want. They also, the calcium powder that you put in their food bowl in the enclosure as well, if they feel the need to go, that they need more calcium, they'll actually go and lick that calcium powder out the food bowl, which is a very rare thing to see. Again, they're nocturnal, so they'll probably do it at night when you're sleeping. But yeah, that's a problem when it comes to keeping them on reptile sand, because sand has calcium in it as well. So they will actually, when they feel the need to have more calcium and you have them on sand, they might even go and take chunks of sand and ingest that, and that's where the problems come in. But also when feeding them things like crickets and worms, the worms get onto those substrates in the sand. That's how they get compacted.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
And so, obviously, also she's quite round in terms of, do you ever see them getting thin? I mean, obviously, I want to be able to alert people if there are any issues and they need to seek advice from a specialist or take them to a vet.
Yes.
The kind of signs. Let's talk about some of the issues that would alert you that there's a problem.
Yes. So, yeah, the first thing with the leopard gecko, you will definitely see it get a little bit thinner in the tummy. But again, talking about the tail will go very, very skinny. Obviously, they've used up all that fat storage. Usually, it can mean parasites, but they also get metabolic bone disease. We say MBD. If it's mainly from not getting enough calcium. So it's either there's like a parasite that's eating everything away and not helping them absorb the calcium, or the owner's not giving it enough calcium powder with every meal. We suggest giving every meal with calcium powder for the leopard geckos.
And in appetence, what period of time are you saying is a reasonable amount of time if they're refusing food before you seek help?
So, so the tail will go very skinny. We call it pencil tail. It'll go short, maybe 1/10 of the size eventually. And you'll see its bones sticking out and that. So I would say when its tail goes even half of what this one is here, then I would maybe start worrying and go to a vet. That would just be a close call. With the pencil tail disease, if you let it go for too long, there's kind of no going back. After that, you've kind of just got to make it feel comfortable as possible, or just take the advice from your vets to put it down if need be.
How long do these guys live for?
So in captivity, they can live between 10 and 15 years.
Oh my word, my son's going to be long gone and I'm still going to have leopard geckos.
But they can live older. There's the oldest one that I've read and known about is a male, and he was over 30 years old, still breeding. So yeah, there is possibilities. But then again, just like us humans, we get cancers, tumors, diseases, all those sicknesses that can also make us pass. So just like them, it just depends on what happens to them along the way. Yeah, and also, again, husbandry is a good one, keeping them clean, making sure they've always got their calcium with their vitamins, and their food and fresh water as well.
Yeah. And size-wise, is she at full size?
Yeah, she's fully grown. So the leopard gecko is usually, with most reptiles, they are full size in about 3 years. Some snakes, like the ball pythons, I find they take quite a while because they do live longer. Like I said, there was one that I saw was known to reach over 60 years of age. So that would be quite a big chunky ball python. But yeah, the leopard geckos, they get the size. You do actually get a giant version as well. They are a lot longer than this. But yeah, we don't breed any of those.
So let's talk about the alternatives to this. If you like this, but you want something a little bit more docile, because I know that you gave me options that day.
Yes.
And of course, my son was very particular about patterns and sort of had a particular thing in mind.
Yes.
But there are obviously alternatives if you need something a little bit more docile, particularly.
Yes, we have the African fat-tailed geckos. Obviously, they come from Africa. And yeah, they're probably a little bit, I like them. I've got a soft spot for the African fat-tailed geckos. I don't know why I don't have one myself yet, but I guess I work with them all the time. So I get to see them and deal with them every day. So,
What's different about them?
So the colors and patterns as well. The African fat-tailed geckos, they don't have these bright yellow and orangey colors. You do get the albino tangerine African fat-tailed geckos, so they do have like an orangey color, but it's not like as bright as these leopard geckos. Also, like the normal leopard geckos, they would be bright yellow with a lot of black spots. With the African fat-tailed gecko, normal African fat-tailed gecko is usually generally very brown in color, but they do have a pattern on them as well. But yeah, they are very cute and they are a lot more docile, especially as babies. So when people come into the store and they want a leopard gecko, majority of people that are keen on getting a reptile, everyone knows a leopard gecko, but the African fat-tailed geckos they are well known, but they're not, well known enough. Obviously, everyone comes in wanting a leopard gecko, and then I always just advise them on maybe taking a look at the African fat-tailed gecko before they make their choice.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, they're beautiful, really beautiful. So what are they doing when they flick their tongue like that? What is that?
They just sensing, they're using their tongue to sense what's what and what's where. They want to, like you can see, she wants to go places. She wants to know what's over there. Where can she hide?
She's
So
sampling.
most reptiles you'll see they'll always use their tongue to flick, and you can see there she always likes to taste the surfaces that she's coming across.
So let's talk about the potential of bringing disease into it. What is your advice? Particularly, obviously, kids have got friends and, they want to take them outside.
Yes.
What is the advice that you generally give in terms of handling and hand washing and hygiene?
Yes.
But also exposing them to, external predators and
Parasites.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, so it's always good before and after to use a hand sanitizer as well as rinse your hand off as well. If you're going to, before you touch a reptile, it is best to sanitize your hands and then also just give your hands a quick rinse off, and then you can hold them. And then again, after you've held them, sanitize just in case there's any diseases or anything that can pass, which is not known at all. But just in case, for your sake and for the reptile's sake. Also, another thing with when it comes to parasites, it's not good to feed any reptile, any bugs or rodents from the wild outdoors because they are full of parasites. So yeah, by feeding them those, your snake, lizard, or gecko or chameleon can get parasites from that, and yeah, it usually turns out bad and visit to the vet.
Yeah. So let's go on to the snakes, because I don't want to lose the opportunity for us to discuss the difference with them. And also, you know, very much so, you're discussing the impact of, you know, wild insects and whatnot. The same, you're now feeding these guys very differently and keeping them on very different substrates. So what is different, and when would you be saying you're probably best suited to a snake over something like a gecko? Oh my word, also so bright and beautiful.
Yeah, so this is a T- yellow butter house snake.
Wow.
Yeah,
I always imagined house snakes were brown.
Yeah, so
I didn't realize they come in such
you get the brown
colours.
house snakes. We got such a variety. We pretty much breed almost all the house snake morphs in Africa. So yeah,
How big do they get?
These get about 1 meter to 1.2 meters. You get your Zambian greens. Those get a little bit bigger than the rest. These ones here under 1 meter. They stay small. Yeah, more like 70, 80 centimeters. But yeah, they are very chilled snakes. This one has never even tried to bite me. I love my house snakes, and this is my favorite morph. So yeah, that's a T- yellow butter house snake.
Wow.
So yeah, we got the black house snakes. They are pitch black. Those are also very awesome. You get your Zambian greens. You get your Kenyan reds. You get your blue eyes, albino blue eyes. Wow, there's so many. There's the T- albino Cape house snake, T+ albino Cape house snake. There is, I honestly can't even put a number to how many that morphs that we actually breed.
So the choice between a house snake and a corn snake for sort of first time snake ownership.
Sure, that is actually a hard one. But yeah, it is a hard one. The house snakes can sometimes come across a little bit nippy, but like I say, with some handling, they are very chilled. But yeah, I do advise people a lot to go for the corn snake. They are also very, very good eaters. Corn snakes never have a problem with eating, and if it does, then you know maybe something is not right there. But yeah, the corn snakes as well, so many different colors and patterns, which we call morphs, that you can get. And yeah, the corn snakes though do get very long. They can grow over 1.5 meters. So yeah, they can get very long, opposed to your house snakes. So it just depends on what length and size snake you are wanting to deal with, and what size enclosure you need, to what size, what space you have in your house to house that snake.
So tell us the differences, because obviously we've discussed the leopard geckos, but what is very different about keeping them in terms of the enclosure setup?
So we all keep them all on heat pads. So they all need a hot side and a cold side. They sit on pretty much the same heat as a leopard gecko, which is about 29 degrees. I wouldn't go to 30 and over. They can battle with that heat as well. Because house snakes, as we all know, they come from all over Africa, but they also adapted to our climate, so our winters, our summers, so they can survive those cold conditions. In winter, obviously snakes, you don't see them as much in winter. That's because they're all hibernating. They find a small crack or a hole somewhere, and they're in there for the whole winter. They don't really, they won't come out to eat. They might come out to go have a drink of water if they have the energy to. But yeah, they spend most of their time hiding in the winter. And then in summer, they'll come out and it's free for all and whatever food you can find.
And in terms of the substrate, so this wouldn't be a recommendation of AstroTurf. Are they better on wood chips and sawdust and that kind of thing? Or are you still advising?
Yeah, so
risk?
with the snakes, it's not advisable to put them on AstroTurf or anything. So the reason why we use substrate is for their poos and their wees to absorb in that substrate. So they don't sit on it and slither through it, because that can cause infections. It can give them scale rot under their bellies, and it can go very bad. But yeah, just like anything, if you catch it in time, it is manageable.
And water bowl and that kind of setup, obviously, I know they've got to be fed differently, and you can tell me after that. But what do you leave for them to have free access to in the enclosure?
So the basics for them is a heat pad, a hard, a water bowl, and substrates. When it comes to decorations, I always advise people to put decorations in. Also, filling the enclosure also gives that safe space for these reptiles. A lot of people come into our store and they feel sorry for the animals in they think it's small enclosures, but it's actually not. They feel safe in there. If you put a snake this size in a massive enclosure and you think that's right for it, it's usually not the case. They can get very stressed out by those big enclosures.
They feel exposed, I think.
Yeah, they feel too exposed.
Okay.
But then again, like I say, you can have them in a big enclosure. Just make sure you fill it up with driftwood and fake plants. It depends on what reptile you get. So like I would say the future of keeping reptiles, it's already started, but it's just getting more people into it, is those bioactive live vivariums. You know, all those vivariums we have in our store that have live plants, and they've got LED grow lights to grow the plants. They've got real soil. They've got a drainage layer. And it's just an awesome environment for these reptiles. We're still working on some reptiles like your leopard geckos. We haven't really got the knack of that yet, keeping them in those bioactive enclosures, just because of the amount of moisture they are in. It's quite wet in there. The leopard geckos need a dry enclosure, but they need that humid hard to go in. Whereas certain snake species, especially your boreal snakes like your vipers, Amazon tree boas, green tree pythons, your rat snakes, they're boreal, so yeah, they like to spend most of their time climbing up in the trees and the logs. So those are quite good reptiles for those bioactive live vivariums. Why I say bioactive is because we use little bugs, arthropods and springtails that actually eat the poos and the sheds in those enclosures. So literally all I do in that enclosure every day is wipe the glass and keep it clean.
Wow.
By the time I come and see a poo, it's almost eaten all away by these little bugs. So yeah, it's amazing.
And the bugs don't obviously affect them at all.
The bugs don't affect them at all.
And they don't try and eat it. There's no sort of issue with that.
The crested geckos that's a very good gecko to put in one of those bioactive live vivariums. They do very well in there, and that is a gecko that would eat the arthropods, which are slight. They can get quite big, so they would eat those. But what we do is we put leaf litter, which is just dried leaves we usually put the leaves into an oven for about half an hour or so on a high heat, and that kills all the parasites in there. Again, you don't want to put anything from the wild without cleaning it or killing parasites and anything that will harm your reptiles in their enclosure.
Yeah. So let's talk about food. And let's talk about how frequently you feed them and what you feed them, because
Awesome.
there's obviously the option of live versus frozen.
Yes.
And having also kept snakes, this is, I'm sure, a topic that you have a lot of discussion on.
Definitely.
Sort of from a welfare as well as, practicality perspective.
Yes.
So talk us through it.
So all of our snakes are fed frozen thawed. We just have to feed them frozen thawed. It's just because there is a bit of a thing where if you're feeding live in an enclosure, it's cruel to the little mouse or rat. It can't escape its environment, can't get away, so that is considered cruel. So yeah, we've got to feed them all frozen thawed, which can be a little bit of a struggle sometimes. Takes a lot of time to get them going, but yeah.
Okay, so let's talk feeding. You've told us obviously the live and thingy, but how often? And talk us through the process of thawing in particular, because it
Awesome.
is,
That's important. Yeah, so most snakes we feed once a week. But the colurids, this is a colurid, your house snakes, king snakes, milk snakes, they can eat, they digest very fast. So you can feed them every 5 days, but every week, once a week, every 7 days is still advisable. You can, in the wild, remember these snakes are not, or any reptile, they're not going to get that food on that day, that size. They might only get their food once a month. They might get their food twice a week. It just all depends on what they come across. So again, by us keeping them in captivity, we do the best for them so they can thrive.
even from a practical perspective, I used to have to go, okay, look, it's Sunday because life is busy. And
Yes.
obviously you want to be consistent. It was easier for me to do that or set an alarm or do something. How do you generally, especially when you've got so many in the store, how do you manage that schedule?
Well, all of our snakes that need to be fed, we feed them all on one day. Like I say, it does take time. So yeah, we do have to get in there early and get the snakes fed. But yeah, so when it comes to people keeping them and they need advice on a feeding schedule, I just say not to worry. If they are not around that day and they can't get to feeding them and your life gets busy, it's honestly not a problem to feed it the next day or the day after, because like I say, it's not like they do adapt to not getting that regular feeding schedule as well. And they do store fats. Obviously, these snakes don't store as much fat as your ball pythons, but they still do store fats. So they can use that for the tough times.
So also, I'm aware that you get them, I'm talking the mice, at different sizes. Talk us through how you know what you're asking for based on age and size, because I was like, I need, and they're like, what size? Furries, fuzzies, whatever.
Yo,
talk us through what you're asking for.
We have a variety. We got with the mice, we got the pinkies, the fuzzies.
They're the smallest. Pinkies are the little, because they're pink. They haven't got any.
Newborns. No fur, yeah. So the pinkies, the fuzzies, then it goes jumpers, which are the mice that are actually they just starting to becoming weaned off their parents or their mom with the feeding. Then you get your weaned mice, which are weaned, they can now eat by themselves. And then you get your large mice. So there's quite a variety, different sizes. So usually you just see the thickest part of the snake, and you kind of take the fuzzy. So this one here, I would be feeding it large fuzzies to jumper mice. You'll be surprised, sometimes they usually can squeeze down bigger meals than you think. Sometimes big meals they can't handle and they can regurgitate those big meals, but it all depends on your snake. If you can see it's a good eater and it doesn't mind, then it can get those bigger meals down. But usually we just measure through the thickness of the thickest part of its body, which is in the middle here. And then you kind of just match that up to the size of the snake, to the food, and that's what you're going to give it.
So, and how long after thawing? What's the process of thawing?
So the thawing, there's two ways I recommend you can do it. Either you can take it out in the morning, put it in a packet, and leave it hanging up over the day, just not in direct sunlight where it gets too hot and warm. Otherwise, you'll come back to a stinky, frozen thawed rodent. But just somewhere in a cooler spot in your home. Or if you haven't done it and you get home and you're like, I need to do this now, you can just take one out, put it in lukewarm water. You don't want it to be too hot to cook the skin of the frozen rodents. So just lukewarm for about, it depends on what size. For a snake this size, its food this size, I'd usually say to be safe, 20 minutes to half an hour in lukewarm water. If it's a bigger rat, I would say more like 40 minutes or so. You want it to be fully thawed out. You don't want it to be frozen inside, otherwise that can cause digesting problem for the snake as well. And it can, again, regurgitate if it's not thawed properly. So yes, another thing is once you have thawed them out, it's best to take them out usually with a feeding tweezer. You take the thawed out rodent and then you put it either on a dry towel or paper towel just to dry it off. You want to make that frozen thawed rodent as dry as possible to be presentable enough for the snakes to eat it. Some people with fussy snakes go as far as using their hairdryer to actually dry that rodent and get that fluffy fur, and it just gets the fragrance in the air again. So yeah, but
and movement. I mean, is there something that they enjoy? They like the thing, or can you just put them in a bowl?
Most of them do need a little bit of a wiggle here and there. But sometimes you do have the lucky ones where you can just leave it on outside of its hide and it will come either overnight or in the next half an hour to an hour and it'll do its own thing by itself. That's a well-trained snake.
Yeah. And at what point are you saying, if you are saying, okay, I've done the wiggle, I've try to encourage, I'm putting in the bowl, at what point you go, okay, no, this has got to come out. This is now no longer suitable for feeding. I've got to try again tomorrow.
Yes. So what I usually advise is feeding them in the evening, because that's when snakes mainly eat dusk and dawn. So when I get home from work, that's when I would mainly feed mine at home, and I would leave it in there overnight. By the next morning, look, if you go there and you give it a wiggle and it doesn't want to eat it, then I advise just putting it down in front of its hide overnight. And then if you come in the morning and worst case it hasn't eaten it, then I would say take it out, because now it's starting to the rodent's starting to get old and rot and get nice and smelly. So yeah, obviously they're not going to eat that. It's just going to stink your house out, so take that out. But yeah, usually they are very quick to eat. Some of them can take about half an hour to eat their food. So yeah, when I am in the evening as I'm going around, usually I do check every hour or so, come in and check. So usually by the time I go to bed, I'll go and take them out. But again, with a busy lifestyle or you forget or something, it's fine to leave it overnight, check the next morning, take it out, worst case if it doesn't eat it. If it doesn't eat it, then you can feed it. You wait another scheduled week. So once a week, every 7 days. So if it doesn't eat that day, you can wait another 7 days.
So you don't have to try the next day?
You don't have to try the next day, no.
Okay. Interesting. And when do you do a full cage clean?
So full cage clean. So cleaning, just cleaning, spot cleanings, we call spot cleaning. So as they poo throughout the week, they eat once a week, they pretty much poo once a week as well. So you kind of just want to go and spot clean those areas where they've pooed, grab a chunk of the substrates that they've pooed on, and just to make it as clean as possible in that enclosure. And then I would say anywhere from a month to 2 months, depending on how big the snake is, how much it poos, how much mess it makes. 1 to 2 months, you can do a full substrate change. And then it is advisable to use reptile cage disinfectants to clean the water bowl, the hide, any decorations and accessories in the cage. You give that a good spray with the reptile cage disinfectant, and then you just rinse that off, wait for it to dry. And then while you're doing that, you can go spray the whole enclosure on the inside with the reptile cage disinfectants, give it a wipe with the damp cloth, and then put new substrate in, and then put all your accessories, decorations, and hides, water bowls back in the enclosure. And
move them around so they're in a different setup because they like the variation, or does that stress them out?
No, it doesn't. It won't stress them out, but you can move it around if you want to. If it's a snake that needs more humidity, we usually advise to keep the water bowl closer to the heat pad, not meaning sitting on top of the heat pad, but just closer to the heat pad, because that water closest to heat creates more humidity in the enclosure.
Let's talk about what great escape artists they are, because I want to warn any of my listeners, particularly parents who are thinking about giving their child a snake. They really do like to get out.
Yeah, they do. But to be honest, it's all about buying the right enclosure. And you get cage locks as well. You get rubber
That's what
wedges.
I was missing.
You get rubber wedges. A lot of people do like cage locks because if they have a kid or a kid's friend comes over and they leave the glass open just a tiny bit, these guys here can wedge themselves and eventually open that glass, and they'll be missing for a good time. You might even go buy another snake and then find it eventually after that, so then you'll have 2 snakes. It's happened. But they are escape artists, and usually as babies, because they can be very skinny as babies, almost as skinny as that tail there. And they, I would say about 20 centimeters or so when they're babies. So with that size, with the air vents and stuff in most enclosures, those air vents and gaps are quite big for those babies. So we do advise to put them in a slightly smaller cage with smaller vents until they are certain size to go in that big enclosure.
I think that was my big mistake. Obviously beautiful enclosure with, enrichment and make it beautiful. And then this tiny, and I was insistent because it's quite intimidating to have like a big snake when you're first time snake owner. So I was like, let's start with a worm in my head. Let's start with a small one.
Yes.
And then you get more and more familiar and they're not so scary as they get bigger. But
that's
the risk with that, obviously the air vents and the tiny gap, that last little bit of closure of that glass. They really are great escape artists. So I've been very delighted that the leopard geckos don't have a tendency to do.
No, they won't escape.
They don't go anywhere, which is very nice.
Yeah.
So you've also brought a corn snake. Talk us through the corn snake, because this is now obviously like a very popular first choice for snake owners. Why the popularity?
Yeah, no. So the corn snakes are.
Can I have a little? Is this a friendly one?
It's
not a bitey one.
Nah, it's never bitten me.
Okay.
There you go.
Thank you. Ooh.
This morph is called a candy cane.
Okay.
Corn snake. They come from the United States, and again, all different colors and patterns, which we call morphs. We are constantly every year making new morphs, new patterns that no one else has in the country, and that's kind of how we stay ahead of the game. My boss has been doing this for pretty much his whole life. Since he was a kid, he was breeding the leopard geckos, the snakes. Started off with the indigenous snakes and stuff like that until over the years, people have imported. Obviously, these had to get imported into the country, and that's how we got them going. So it's taken over 20 years to get certain morphs of these reptiles that we have: snakes, geckos, lizards.
Also magnificent colors.
Yes.
I mean, wow.
But it's a good pet because, as you can see, they're chilled. They do this one here. We consider sub-adult. It's not a fully grown adult yet. I would say maybe in the next year or so, she might be ready to breed. For now, she's just in her enclosure, enjoying life, getting fed, getting her water, getting cleaned, getting holed. But they are a good pet because they're very good eaters. Corn snakes, you don't struggle to feed corn snakes. But like I said, unless there's something internally wrong with them, then which usually means most of the time their hotspot, which is their heat pad, in that corner, their hotspot isn't on the correct temperature, which is about 29 degrees is what they need to sit on. To digest their food. So
top disease things, because I must say, obviously as a vet, I may have seen things that are unusual, but mouth rot and obviously burns are common things. How do owners avoid things like that?
So the common things is, you get, again, your belly burn, and you can also get infections under the belly as well from improper husbandry, so not cleaning the enclosure out properly, not changing substrates in time, and that can all cause infections in the scales, because all that gunk gets in there, and it eventually starts what we call scale rot. And then they can get mouth rot as well, again just from poor husbandry. Also, if you're feeding a rodent that might have had something wrong with it, or if it was dirty as well. Or another thing that can happen sometimes is substrates, certain substrates it just happens, it's not a common thing, but it can happen that substrates do get stuck in their mouth, and it might cause a little sore or something in there, cut them a little bit, and that also can cause infection if not treated. So you kind of want to watch for those things and get that as soon as possible.
Incredible.
Otherwise, you'll be visiting the vet.
So top tips for those who are now obviously inspired to keep reptiles, and tell us where they can find you and how to, sort of get more information and more advice on this.
Awesome. Yes. So we are in Waterfall, Durban, KZN. We are at 38 David Drive, Waterfall, the Plane Tree Complex. It's a little quiet complex. We got a little shop, but it's probably the best, if you want to say, pet store in the whole of, I would say Africa. Especially when for its size and as well what we do, we only specialize in reptiles, so we don't sell rabbits and birds and fish there. We only sell reptiles, only specialize in reptiles. So if you want good advice, we've definitely got that. We've also got everything you need for your pet reptile, and we also have the widest variety in the whole of South Africa when it comes to reptiles, breeding reptiles and selling them as well.
And you're online as well. So.
We are online as well. We got an online store, so we can ship nationwide. So if you're not around and you can't come visit us, then you can check out our website. We've got our online store. Everything that is available is on there as well.
It's even just cool to look at in terms of,
Yes.
doing your research and looking at all the variants and the colors and the morphs, as you say. Sorry, it's not quite variants, but it's fascinating to be able to do the research and say, gosh, you don't have to now keep a corn snake. You have other options for entry level. But also if you become particularly interested in this, the options out there in terms of what you can.
And it's one thing we try to do all the time. We're constantly trying to find reptiles that we don't breed as well. They are more specialized. They're harder to breed and keep. But we're always trying to find different reptiles just to catch the attention of people. You always want something different in your shop. Also something like, we don't always get to see all these things all over the world, so it's nice to, when there's something rare that we can bring in so that people can see it, that definitely does create a good spark for our shop.
And I must say, the initial setup, obviously, I was determined, because I believe in good husbandry, to have that nice hide. And I mean, the options that you've got in the store are beautiful in terms of having that aesthetic look, but also just, it's immaculate. It's fascinating to spend time in. And, it's lovely to be a responsible purchaser in terms of getting it from, people who know what they're doing rather than just
Thanks
online
so much.
sources. So I definitely recommend people visit the website and then contact you guys if they're interested.
Yes, our numbers are all on the online store. My name is Justin, so you can check my name and number there and contact me if you want to, but you're welcome to contact our head office for the online store as well. And any other number that's on there. There's quite a few numbers for my boss and the wholesale side of the business. Because we've got we've got the retail store, we've got the wholesale side of the business. We supply pet stores nationwide. We do reptile expos. We've got one up in Joburg on the 13th of December. those are big. Those are nice for people to go to, and you get excited, and it's just a good vibe, good time. And then we also do exports. We ship overseas as well. But yeah, that's quite a big a job that. But
well, hopefully at some point we can dive into some of the other things that you keep there, because I know we've been limited by time. But I've the main thrust is to obviously responsible pet ownership for me. That that's from a welfare and health perspective, that's critical. So the more information we've got out there about keeping these sort of species, the less we see them as vets with issues, the less obviously you're seeing things that need correction. So we definitely.
It's the last thing I want, people coming back in and there's a problem with their pets, new pet reptile. It's not nice to deal with. But so that's why we do the best we can with our advice that we can give. But it also, like, these are animals, it doesn't matter what animals, we learn new things with them every single day. So that's what's so interesting about these. It's definitely, reptiles are not boring at all. They've got a personality, and some, I always say snakes are not, snakes are snakes, they just do their thing. I like my geckos and lizards more. They've got more of a personality, and they do want more of your attention. As you can see though, holding the snake here has no problem with me, doesn't want to go anywhere. It's actually enjoying the warmth from my hand at the moment, so it's happy to stay right here. It's not striking at me. You can see it's giving its tongue flicks there. You also want to talk in the mic.
Got something to say.
It's also, again, sensing what's going on around them in his environment.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your day. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, as I hope my listeners will too, and hopefully we'll have you back with some new things to show us next time. Super excited, and obviously, yes, we'll leave all those details at the bottom of the notes. People can access your website and more information.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Super grateful. Thanks, Justin.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode on the Pause and Effect podcast. If you found the discussion helpful, please like, share, and follow our podcasts. Don't forget to leave us a comment or review. We love hearing from our listeners. Remember, you can listen to us on your preferred podcast platform. Welcome back to Just for Pets. You're with Dr. Cara.
Hi, Doc. It's Justin the Jack Rossi here, and boy, am I itchy.
Are you on a hypoallergenic diet?
Hyper what now?
Changing to a special diet will really help. And Just for Pets have a massive range. And flea and tick medication, special shampoo.
Ooh, how quick can you get some?
Order today and we'll deliver pronto.
I feel better already.
Justforpets.co.za. Vet approved, pet adored. Get it all to your door.